Welcome. Yeah, let me just turn the music down a little bit, and we can have a quick chat on numerous things. First off, let me get rid of the logo too. Yeah, there we go. A little better. You see it on my shirt, so yeah, there you go. Right off the bat, just a little bit of news and housekeeping and so forth before we get on into what we're going over and doing today. But I just want to talk about why I've not been making as many videos and live streaming and so forth. To tell you the truth, been pretty busy. I opened an Airbnb, and so I got 3 rooms going, and right now 2 of them are full. One of them is awaiting occupancy, but that takes up quite a bit of my time as well, plus a full-time job, plus the lady love of my life and the volunteer work I do with my local church. So you know what, been pretty busy. This is a hobby, but it's still something I'm devoted to because safety is another passion of mine. I don't know what else to say in that aspect except sorry, and I will keep trying to get videos on. I've got one coming out this week on the elements of safety management system, and I want to have a couple of shorts hitting the channel as well, just regarding things like anchoring bias and just to remember what to check for an investigation. But all in all, once again, I know you tune in to hear about safety, not necessarily excuses, but yeah, I just thought I'd share that as to why things are what they are. So moving right along, just want to make sure that everything is working. So yeah, let's just see here. Looks like it's working so far. So yeah, want to talk a bit today regarding diagnosing a safety culture, and just part 1, and then of course we're going to have a question and answer to follow regarding any of your health and safety questions and some that have been brought up to me. Now, realistically, there's lots to consider when you're thinking about a safety culture. First off, before we get into it too far, what a safety culture is. Now, realistically, culture is defined as a collective set of beliefs and values that are shared by a group of people or an organization. I know if it sounds like a short that I've just uploaded, that's it, because it is. But safety culture is just that. It's a group of people or an organization that place a high value on safety and believing in the benefits of practicing safety. So if you want to look at it from another aspect, they're essentially weaving safety into the fabric of their business. It's not just a checkbox on a list of tasks. And so one of the questions I'll leave you with, but I will, and I want you to think about it, I'm going to answer it in the next live stream, is the difference between a safety culture and a safety climate, because it weaves into what we're doing and talking about. But realistically, a safety culture is pretty important because, well, honestly, I don't know if this picture was staged. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't know. The wood paneling from the 1970s in the shop is, yeah, it leaves a lot to be desired. But, I mean, there is everything wrong with this. We have a person grinding with no PPE. The footwear he's wearing looks like it should be something that he should be lounging about in his easy chair and robe with. A cigarette in his mouth, can of beer, flammable materials behind him and around him. Tripping hazards all about, like, I don't know. But once again, how's the safety culture here? We got to ask. Now, like anything else, let's talk about the chat rules real quick here. Participate. You know what? You have a question, pop it into the chat. If you are tuning in afterwards, by all means, leave one in the comments. I appreciate all of the comments I get. Regardless, I appreciate them all. I try to answer them all. And if you've likely noticed in the chat, it's subscribers only. And that's just so that I can I can forego the advertisements and the enticements to get me to invest in crypto coin or porn. So I just make it subscribers only, and there's a reason for it. It's not that I don't want participation. It just helps me to weave out and get rid of, winnow out the spam, for want of a better term. Now, ask and answer. Your knowledge and opinions count. So if something appears in the chat or the comments and you want to collaborate and add something in, by all means, because you should be recognized for the knowledge and expertise and skills that you have. However, on that note, be civil, no name calling, no insults, because we have to remember that not everybody has the level of safety knowledge that you might. And that's why they're here, is to get that information, to get that knowledge. And by all means, you also have to remember this is not professional advice. There's no contracts being signed. There's no money changing hands. So this is not professional advice. All this is an opportunity to collaborate, form a community, and just share ideas more than anything else. And I'm moderating it. So there you go. Now, what's your safety culture health like? Is it ill? Is it terminal? Do you know? Like, part of the problem is a lot of people have really never thought about what's the perception, the collective perception within their organization as far as safety goes. Like, does everybody embrace safety? Is safety part of everything we do? Is it part of our DNA? Or is it a checkbox on a list of things? Or is it something, oh yeah, safety. So what's your safety culture like? Is it ill? Is it terminal? And one of the unfortunate things, excuse me, that I've run into with organizations is they tend to have, well, this misconception. I see it lots, whether it's in the executive group or the management group, or even sometimes workers that are just totally oblivious. Oh, we have an excellent safety culture. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is what are the signs and symptoms. I'm going to use sort of like a paramedical approach into looking at it, for want of a better term. So you have to remember, you have to look at it, and whatever you want, don't be in denial. Good morning, Dave. Glad you could join us. Thank you. Don't be in denial. I see it lots, as I've said. I've seen where executive, we have an excellent safety culture here. Meanwhile, people are like grinding with a cigarette in their mouth and no PPE and things like that. So the important thing is what's to test and diagnose. If you've gone to the doctor, and especially if you go to a new doctor, I can remember when I moved from BC to Alberta and got a new doctor, and immediately there's this barrage of tests. It's blood tests, it's blood pressure, it's everything under the sun. And, well, he wanted to see how I was doing. And that's the important thing, is like, what do you test? What do you diagnose? Are there even tests for a safety culture? Because it becomes this vaporous, ambiguous thing. It's like saying, how much do you love your wife? Like, how do you quantify it? And that's part of what we're going to talk about here. Now, the important thing, like I said, what do you measure? Now, like anything else, when doctors or medical professionals, even I can remember way back in my early days of teaching entry-level paramedics and first aid, a lot of times we would teach the students what you have to do is understand that there's a baseline. So what is a normal breathing rate? Anywhere from 12 to 20 beats a minute. What is normal pulse rate? 60 to 100, things like that. So understanding what is normal, what is optimal, helps you to tell also too what is bad. So what we're going to look at is a few points that you want to look at in a health and safety culture. Now, I'm going to cover what I think I would look at. If any one of you wants to add something into the chat, into the comments, whatever the case may be, let me know, because I'm always interested. It's another point to weigh. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, what are the qualities of a good safety culture? And like I said, I've gathered together a few of what I look at and what I think about. In fact, I've kind of made a career around working on safety cultures in organizations. And I've been fortunate to learn from my mistakes and also dwell upon the wisdom of a lot of others, whether they be business sages or other safety professionals or whatever the case may be, and be able to apply some of those things to resurrecting safety cultures. So, understanding what are some qualities to consider, okay, when you're looking at health and safety culture. So the first thing is, what is the organizational commitment? Top down, bottom up. Is it just policy? Is it just superficial? Is it something that's visible and that you see? Is it something that's visible that you see with the workforce, but also with the executive? And so what's that organizational commitment? What's the leadership commitment? Is there, and I'll talk about some other good signs when we do part 2, which is how to tell. But one of the other good indicators is where you look at the health and safety policy that's posted or anywhere, and you see a CEO or a senior executive signature on it that's dated for that year. What I often see is something that's dated for 5 years ago. Well, our policy's got good longevity. Well, what's the proof that the leadership actually had a look at it, reviewed it, and thought to themselves, does this still apply to us today? Right? Does this still apply to us today? And I mean, that's a huge question. Just something to think about. My camera went out of focus. Focus, camera. Focus. There we go. Now, the other thing to consider is, what are the opinions and perception of workplace incidents? One of the things that angers me, it's just part of the job. Really? So being exposed to hazards is just part of the job. And not worrying about them manifesting or anything, that's just part of the job. Really. So And I remember once talking with a group, and a lot of times they have to endure threats of physical or psychological violence. And the attitudes among some were it's just part of the job. Well, really, that means as a construction worker, falling from a height is just part of the job. Or being hit by mobile equipment is just part of the job. Or when, like David, as a security person, while just being exposed to violence on a constant basis is just part of the job. Or being an electrician and getting shocked is just part of the job. So is that the opinions in the workplace? Or is it like it's just part of doing business? Or do we justify that it happened? Well, it happened, and really there's nothing we can do about it. We just have to move on. Or are incidents not tolerated at all, and we've got to figure out a way to fix them? That's the question that needs to be asked too as well. What's about the thought of safety as it's compared to the work that you do? Okay? I mean, one of the things it drove me right around the bend. You come into an active work area doing an inspection or a site visit or whatever, and oh, hey, safety guys here, everybody smarten up. And really, so it was okay to be negligent, reckless, and careless before I got there, but after I got there, well, yeah, we want to tighten things up a bit. And that's disconcerting, it is. So is it profits over priority, or is it just that safety is a necessary evil? Okay, well, hey, you know what? These vests are hot and they're irritating, but we got to wear them. Or is it looked at as an integral part of the business work? Hey, you guys are around moving equipment all the time. I want the operators to be able to see you, so make sure that you wear your vests. I worked with a fellow once. He was a project manager for a larger construction organization, and he insisted all of his workers, regardless of the activity, safety glasses, vests, hard hat, boots, regardless of what they're doing. The only time that they could remove their hard hat and safety glasses is when they came into the construction trade. That was it. And I asked him why. And because a lot of times you should be using the PPE according to the job you're doing. He said, because when the people put these on, safety becomes part of the mindset. So the question is, when you're doing the work, or when the work is being done in your organization, is it part of the mindset? Is it an integral part of the business and work? And is there a responsibility? Gotta get a drink. Is there responsibility and accountability beyond the law? So I did a video a while back regarding the differences. And you have to remember, obligations are something under a moral, legal, or ethical code that you're required to follow. Responsibility is the activities and the functions you're performing to fulfill those obligations. And accountability is those check marks, those evidence that you've fulfilled your responsibilities to those obligations. So, is it part of health and safety? Or is it just a total disregard? Or is it safety as someone else's job? I can remember working with a group once, and the organization I was working for hired 400 people over the course of the summer, over 400. And the person said for his small department, he says, I really don't have time to do these new hire orientations. Like, what is health and safety doing? And I mean, when I looked at him and said, is that the right attitude? I understand you're busy, but we hired over 400 people. If we were to spend 20 minutes with each person or a half an hour doing an orientation that's suitable, well, you do the math. What else would we do? So, is safety just something to avoid punishment and punitive action either by the law or with the organization? Or is there a link within what you do to that moral and ethical responsibility? Do people feel that they're morally and ethical responsible to doing safety? Is there an environment where people want to do safety? Because you have to ask yourself, What kind of environment does this fellow work in? Is safety part of his job? We do know that he has a unique sense of balance. That's the good thing. I can imagine I wonder what he would grab if he started to fall. Anyway, what else do we consider? What about worker involvement in the health and safety management system or the health and safety program? Are workers just doing what they're told without any kind of feedback or input, and they're just like automatons and robots and just, yes, I'll do safety? Is that the case? Or are they being directly involved, and are they providing feedback? So, for instance, what's the function like with the worker contingent in your health and safety committee? Are they reluctant members, or are they just viewing the health and safety committee as a place that they can go and hang out? Are they actively engaged in providing input both to the health and safety committee? Is the health and safety committee engaged in looking at work? Okay, how about now? David, is it coming in? Yeah, okay, yes. Yes, I saw your message. Sorry about that. Don't know what happened. We'll have to deal with it, but at least this mic is working. Okay, so going back, let's go back to actual genuine management, health and safety committee and health and safety environment program involvement. Is there an actual management involvement? Is it genuine? Are they showing up to the health and safety committee meetings with, hey, I got things to do, can we move this along? Or are they actively engaged, working with the worker contingent and health and safety committee group and looking at solutions to workplace issues? And on that note, are safety challenges looked at as problems in need of a solution, and is there engagement? And what's the solution? Are people looking at, oh, just a quick fix? Well, I'll patch that up. It's fine. No big deal. We'll deal with it. Or is there an idea of looking at it as, okay, what's the cause? What's the process? What do we need to do to fix it versus just patch it? Are we looking at root cause as something to concern ourselves with? Or are we just ignoring it all entirely? So we should always be striving to root cause, causal factors, and looking at some sort of a solution as a contingency and what we can do to fix it. Okay, well, thanks, David. There's it shouldn't have been overpowering me. I don't know what happened. There's been a glitch in the system, but thanks, David. Next thing, is there a responsibility and accountability beyond the law? Are we looking at it as, and remember, like I said, responsibility and accountability. Responsibility is that activity and function that you're doing to fulfill your obligations under a legal or ethical moral code. And so here's the quick thing. Are people doing safety regardless of what people are watching? Or are they doing safety and then telling those that weren't watching? Virtue signal. Or is it a genuine desire to do safety? When we look at it, we have to understand that there's more to it than meets the eye. Like, for instance, are safety results studied or ignored? One of the things I find with organizations is they just pay the WCB bill and the insurance bills without ever considering the costs and looking into, is there a way to lower that cost? Safety is a return on investment if you view it that way. But the problem is people don't necessarily view it as a return on investment. So are WCB and insurance bills just paid without looking at why the cost is there? Or another average case is, let's look at all of the past incidents. Lagging indicators. Are we just looking at results from previous inspections, results from incident investigations? Or, as a good sign, are we developing good leading indicators and understanding that? And if you want to know more about leading and lagging indicators, I've done videos on it, but let me know and I can talk about it more on a live stream. Next case is what's the safety communication from executive and management like? Because, and the reason I focus on that is often safety communication from executive and management should be more than just information. Put it up on the OHS board or send it out in a blast email. That's all information. Communication becomes that two-way conveyance. And so is it something that's non-existent, not happening at all? Or is it only done when it's necessary? Like if there's something for compliance or you found out in a safety audit that you're deficient in something and you need to address that. So what's the case here? What's, or is health and safety communication from the executive and management something that is done as part of every business function where there's an opportunity and eliciting that two-way communication? In other words, the confirmation of awareness and understanding from the workforce and the audience, or is it just one way and a talking head getting up there? I've seen CEOs look so uncomfortable talking about safety. They actually look like they really got to go pee and they have ants in their pants at the same time. It's terrible. So what's the safety communication like? And is it indicative of a good or bad safety culture? Is safety a hindrance or a business element? I've touched on it a little bit previous in the last slide, but is it something that's being done as part of everything you need to do? Like I said, oh, safety guys here, everybody start acting safe, or something weird like that. And you know what? Oh, hang on, that's the problem. There we go. Camera decided not to focus anymore. I'm rife with technical errors today. Um, and so is safety a hindrance or part of the business element? Is it woven into the fabric of what you do? Thank you, Kiyur Pendai. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Kiyur? Is that how it is? We have to weave. It has to be this idea of people want to do safety. You have to create an environment, create a business environment where people want to do safety. It's woven into the fabric of your work. Instead of repair roof, set up ladder, check out ladder, inspect ladder, etc., it should be repair roof and follow ladder procedure. And the ladder procedure should be part of what they're doing as natural. Thank you, Kayer. Awesome. Great. Welcome to the channel. Thank you. So is it part of what you do? Like I worked with an organization once, and I can remember one of the business units, they were getting in a bunch of new pieces of the equipment. And this is how you could tell that they really had an idea on how safety should be woven into everything. They said, well, first off, I know everybody's anxious. The senior manager said, I know that everybody's anxious to use this new equipment, but a few things have to happen. Number one, we have to have an in-service by the vendor, so that everybody's aware of anything that's different. And it was neat. There was pushback from a lot of the other managers, the frontline managers, saying, no, everybody knows how to use it. Doesn't matter. He wanted an in-service to make sure that everything was correct. He wanted that, anything added, and the job hazard assessment process reviewed, and the safe work procedures both reviewed to make sure that they would be indicative of this new equipment. And he said the vendor does not get paid until we've done all of that. And so, wow, that meant safety's woven into everything. Safety is a part of the process. And then going forward, the following year, same thing happened. And he said, and the senior manager said, okay, so we've got this other new equipment. And people spoke up and said, no, vendor was here yesterday, led everybody through an in-service. The safe work procedures have been reviewed, edited. It's part of the job hazard assessment. Everybody's had a full orientation. It's like, wow. So you see how it became part of the process. And it was like, oh, great. Could you do me a favor and share that with others within this organization? It was awesome. And you get that safety tingling feeling all over you when it occurs. Now, the last thing, and by all means, none of these are in an order of importance. These are just things, like I said, that I look for in looking at how an organization has, or how the safety culture is within an organization. Is there a desire for continuous improvement? Often what I see is, oh, safety's done, book on the shelf, and that's it, we're good. And that's not the case. It can't be the case. The case has got to be where we look at doing safety as part of everything. And once something's done, how do we make it better? Are we reviewing what we've done? Are we checking in to make sure it's functioning? I mean, it's okay to tread water, but eventually you're going to sink. There's always an opportunity for improvement. And so are you looking for it as an organization? Now, I'm not meaning that you get analysis paralysis. You still have to do work. Safety shouldn't hinder work. Work should continue because of it, but it should continue well with everybody being safe. So what is the perception of continuous improvement? Is it just, oh God, we've got to audit again, or, oh, it's time for program review? Or is it, hey, we've reviewed the program, we've reviewed the safe work procedures, we've reviewed this, reviewed that. It's still current today and still functioning. Here's the checkpoints that we use. Is that the attitude? And like I said before, I shouldn't need to tell you what positive looks like. You should be able to infer it from what I'm talking about. And if you don't know, by all means, leave a comment, enter something in the chat, and we can talk about it. Because sadly, when you don't have a good, safe working environment from a safety culture, you get stuff like this. And literally, like, I cringed when I saw this. It's like, really? Seriously? Seriously. And I mean, I've time and time again had people tell me, well, it was just going to be for a second. And you have to realize workplace incidents or workplace accidents, whatever you want to call them, life changes sometimes irreparably in an instant, just like that. From not pre-planning and not considering and not just taking that little bit of extra time. And if safety is woven into what you do, if it becomes like part of the fabric or part of the shirt, if it becomes part of what you do, then you know what? Then you don't have to undergo those life-changing things. A famous business icon, Peter Drucker, he said this: the first order of business, and this is what people have to understand, it's not to maximize profit, but to minimize loss. If you're reducing your loss, your profit is going to go up. And like anything else, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where we have a base triangle, and that's that thing like food and sustenance, the very next step up from it is safety and security. And if people are working safely and there's a safe working environment, you know what? They're going to be more productive. And honestly, the internet is rife with studies. So now what? You've understood what the good qualities or the optimal qualities of safety are. But you have to, like I said, you have to understand what optimal looks like, and it's necessary. Remember that 12 to 20 breaths a minute, 60 to 100 beats a minute, optimal blood pressure, all of that stuff, to understand what healthy looks like before you can understand what unhealthy looks like. So the next step is understanding how to measure. So next safety meeting, we're going to talk about how we collect the data and answering that question, what's the difference between safety culture and safety climate? So, and of course, right now, Q&A. Have we got questions? If you've got questions, I've got answers. Haven't had a lot of questions come in the comments the last little while, possibly because, honestly, like I said, I've been really busy and haven't done a lot of videos and content on the channel, and I apologize for that. And things are starting to level out, starting to get into a better sense of routine. So hopefully that'll change. Like I said, 2 videos coming out this week. One is on the elements of the safety management system, or health and safety management system, or you might have heard them as an occupational health and safety management system, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to talk about the best practice elements, because literally I've studied a bit about it, whether in the United States, whether in Europe, whether in Canada and across the provinces. Everybody always has their different perceptions. I know, heaven forbid, we'd ever get standardized on safety, but realistically, if you look at the International Standards Organization, they argue and debate for hours on a single paragraph. So that's why we don't have a lot of standards yet on safety. So I'm going to talk about what I look at as what I see as the best practice elements to have. And I got a few shorts ideas that I'm going to come out as just shorts reminders on health and safety. And I'm developing and looking at more safety talks videos. They're short 5 to 7 minute ones that you can use as toolbox talks. But at that point, I've rambled on enough. Has anybody got any other questions? Any questions about anything regarding health and safety, that is? So the meaning of life, can't help you with. Well, you don't have to necessarily sit here and watch me drink coffee. So if there's no other questions, if you have ones afterwards, by all means, leave them in the comments. Oh, thank you, Kier. Good. I'm glad everything was clear. If you have other questions regarding health and safety, by all means, leave them in the comments. Reach out over Twitter, Facebook, whatever the case may be. I prefer YouTube because it just, everything is bam right there and I can answer questions, start in the comments and then feature them on a Q&A. But yeah, so if that's the case, I'm going to crank up the music just a little bit so that, yeah, I can have it playing in the background because it's, yeah, time to head out. And yeah, I'll wish you all the rest of your weekend goes well. Stay safe. Do me a favor, just the typical closing. Oh, you have your first health and safety meeting in 2 weeks. Well, awesome. Well done. So prepare for it, David, and look at previous agendas and things like that. And I do have videos on health and safety committees, so have a look at those and hopefully they help you. And I did do one about having a good health and safety committee meeting. So have a look at those and hopefully it helps prepare you for your next meeting. And I know you'll do well. But anyway, back to the closing. Be safety influencers. So in other words, do safety regardless of if anybody's watching or not, because chances are people are. So be a safety leader, be an influencer. Think about safety, talk about it, but do it. Walk the walk, okay? So have a wonderful rest of your weekend and keep an eye out in the channel for the next videos coming out. Until then, take care, okay? Bye for now.